Hello and welcome to Virtual Coffee Lunch and Learn Edition. Virtual Coffee's mission is to be a welcoming tech community that allows room for growth and mentorship at all levels and to create meaningful opportunities for learning, leadership, and contribution for everyone. To find out more about our events, to find our code of conduct, and to learn more about us, you can visit our site at virtualcoffee.io. We are really glad today to have you all with us, and especially we want to thank Dan Ott for presenting this open source project walkthrough as we kind of kick off Preptember as we move towards Hacktoberfest. Dan is an independent front-end designer and developer, a father, ADHD person, a Clevelander, and one of our Virtual Coffee maintainers. So I want to welcome him and give him the floor to get started. Feel free to ask questions during Dan's presentation, and you can also throw those in the chat and I'll make sure I'll monitor that as well.
Thanks, Becca. Thank you everybody for coming. Like Becca said, I'm going to kind of dive in, but feel free to interrupt or drop questions in chat or anything like that. This is not a very structured presentation. I don't have slides. I don't have anything like that. So just kind of wanted to do a little tour. Just to get started. The other part of this is going to be mostly a tour about GitHubs and repositories and things of that nature on the GitHub UI. We're not going to dive into, in this presentation, we're not going to dive super deep into actually writing code or forking and doing terminal stuff. We will have presentations coming up this month and next month for that. But this one, I just wanted to kind of do a little tour. We'll start from a contributor's point of view, and then we can show you some kind of cool features that GitHub has and different approaches you can take, and then we will switch over to the maintainer's view and get through as much as we can. So I guess, without further talking from me, I'm going to share my screen here. So hopefully this works. Okay. Can the people see my screen okay? Is it big enough? I'm trying to, I have a new monitor, so I'm still trying to.
A little bit bigger.
You would like it to be bigger?
Yeah, okay. Give it a couple of pluses.
Well, fair enough. Okay. So I created, I guess the first, I guess I could start with a very first, if you don't have a GitHub account, it's very easy to sign in. They have a really cool, I haven't been through this before, but a really cool sign up thingy. That's neat. I went through it this morning because I wanted to create a user that was sort of fresh. So if you don't have a GitHub account, they make it really easy and you can just kind of do that. And so the first thing I wanted to show you is, so this is your profile page. This is the user I just created this morning. So done almost nothing. The one thing here is the README. So this is your personal README. The GitHub sign up workflow actually helps you create this, right? So which was a cool thing. But people who don't have, or who already had an account or whatever, maybe didn't see that wizard. But if you don't have this created, I'm pretty sure that now on your homepage, they'll show you a nice little link to do it. But the README, what this does is anybody who has this set up can create a README, and you can show you all sorts of stuff here. And so there is, mine is really boring, but you can put whatever you want in here. So so I just put some text in here, right? I think other people, I don't know if anybody, can I just look at where's the chat? Sorry, I want to try to find my participants. Here we go. Chat. I don't know. I'll find it. Chat. Got it. If anybody has a suggestion, I have real quick of somebody who has a cool one. There's lots of cool stuff you can do here. And I'm totally blanking on anybody who has set up in a cool one, but mine is kind of cool. All right, Kirk, was it TK?
TK Shield.
No, not too much. I'm just, it's been a cool thing to set up ahead of time here. Here's Kirk's. So I'm not gonna. There's a lot of blogs and stuff out there to set up these cool things. There's also some cool packages like websites people have made to set you up with templates and stuff. But this is Kirk's README. So anybody who goes to Kirk's profile on GitHub sees this, and it's really cool. I would advise setting it up for yourself if you can, even if it's just simple. Like on mine, you saw mine, and it's just a couple little words, but it's much better than nothing. So that's just a quick thing. And I guess, you know, from then on, I'm just going to dive into some like looking at a repository. So we're going to use the, I have this bookmarked. So I made it a little thing here. Okay. So lots of times you land on, somebody says, oh, here's a GitHub link. What you'll do is end up on a repository, right? So that's this. This is the repository for our public website at Virtual Coffee. And so repository like this has a lot of things going on. And this is, you know, I'm logged in as this user who is not a member, is not, you know, has not contributed. This is the first time theoretically that this user, you know, that I'm looking at this site. But you can see even then there's a lot of stuff to kind of check out. And I thought I'd just kind of start at the top. The star one really quickly is pretty much just a favorite, you know, it's like a like it, whatever. So if you star it, it shows up on the repository stats, but you can also on your profile very easily look at projects you start. And so it's a way to bookmark apps. It's a way to show support to apps too, or not apps, but repositories. It's a way to bookmark them for yourself. You can, if you have a ton starred here, you can actually like go, oh, well, let's find the ones that have, you know, I've only started one here, but let's find the ones that have Reactor, that have, you know, Ruby, etc. If you wanted to do that, I don't personally, I mean, I star things just to like give support. I don't use the, you know, I don't use it as an internal way to track things, but it is there. The watch is, so this isn't actually, this actually is an interesting thing. So by default, on literally all public repositories in the whole world, when you create a GitHub account, you're set up to this set for notifications. So if somebody mentions you, you will get a notification. If somebody, or if you comment or you know, create a pull request that in other ways interact with the repository, you then will be like subscribed to that particular thread of, you know, things, whether it's an issue or a pull request, you'll get notifications. And so that's the default. You can subscribe to all activity, which which is, I think, kind of the default if it's your repository, if you create one, is the default there. It's not very fun if it's an active one. I would admit, you know, I would advise not like turning this off pretty quickly if you ever have this turned on a large repository. But I am like, personally, my actual user is, I have this turned on virtualcoffee.io because I like to see what's happening. You can say ignore, which is like literally nothing, and then custom, you can, there's lots of different things you can kind of choose here. So you can say, well, on this one, I only want to be notified about discussions, but I don't care about the rest of this, or I only want to be notified about, you know, etc. That's kind of cool. And the other bit on that is on your personal profile in your settings. So if you go to settings, and then go to notifications, and I'm not going to dig into a lot of this. There's a lot of cool, I don't know about cool, but there's a lot of things in here that we're not going to have time for. But notifications lets you choose how to be notified. So if a notification is created in GitHub, then you can say, okay, hit me up on the mobile app too, or something. Hit me up everywhere. You know, you can change these. The other bit here is that sometimes you might not be aware of is custom routing. So I probably could have done this in a different order, but if you are a member of an organization, you can create, you can say, just for that organization, send me emails to a different address. So here we can actually, so if you want to create an organization, we can do that right here. And we're going to say free. Okay, what should be our account name? What should be our organization name? Let's see here.
Uses GitHub.
Virtual T.
What? I missed both of those, but okay, there we go. And so you can set up whatever email, I guess here. This belongs to my personal account. This is weird. Spiral. Oh yeah. There we go. Okay. And so now I have an organization called Kirk is Awesome. And so I did this just so now I can say here, this is custom routing, right? So this is our notification settings. And I can say, just for these ones, send this to a different email address. So you can verify emails here, et cetera, et cetera. It's handy if you get involved in open source. It can be really nice to do. I have like personally a virtual coffee email address. I have my business, my work email address. If you get added to your work organization on GitHub, but you don't want everything coming to your personal email address, you can, you don't have to change your global email address. You can go into here to emails and add an email address. You have to confirm it, and then you can use it in different ways. It's kind of cool. All right, so that's just kind of notifications and things like that. We good on that? There's some interesting things at the that you can do with notifications on individual threads, which I'll show you when we get there. Have I missed any questions in the chat or?
You are good right now. Thank you.
Cool. So back to our repository. So this is where we land on this repository. I have started. I've just left these by default. Sponsoring is something that Virtual Coffee does. Not all organizations do, but we can look at. I mean, you can just click on that and learn about that later. When you get to this view, you are in the code tab, right? So this has all of the code that is in the repository. This little drop down here lets you switch branches. So there's right now just 3 different branches going on, but it can be helpful. And most of the time, you just want to hang out in the main one. And then, well, should we go into? Let's see. This is well, I don't know. This is just like a jumpy file thing. But when you want to browse through these files, you can just look at them. So if we click on package.json, we can obviously see it here. I'm going to, before I get into editing and stuff like that, I'm going to go into issues for a little bit. But that this is kind of how you browse things. The GitHub UI allows you to actually, like I said, you can edit files, you can create new files, you can make changes in the GitHub UI. And if you are not a member of the repository, right? So like this user is just a potential contributor, you can say, okay, here's this file. I'm going to make it Markdown. Here's my file, and you can, use their default ones and propose new file. Okay, and so what this does is, I shouldn't have gone this far, but what this does is basically creates a fork on your thing, creates a branch for you, and then you can hit pull request and submit a pull request. I know I'm diving through this a bunch, but I'm gonna go back to this. But it is kind of a cool feature that, like, sometimes it's not clear, but you can make a lot of changes directly in the UI of GitHub. And I see in the comments the VSCode Editor, and so that is actually, I was going to like do that in a bonus session, but that's actually live right now. So I have no idea what there's some key you can hit, I think, but if you change .com to .dev on any repository, it'll actually open up VSCode in your browser.
Period key.
Period key.
Yeah, just press dot and then boom.
So yes, either change it to .dev or press dot, and then you get, this is all in VS Code. You can see here, I was already starting to mess around with it, but a VS Code instance in your browser. And you can do the same kind of thing. I don't know what it's like. I think here you have to specifically create a fork and create a branch and, make sure you are doing that sort of thing. I haven't messed with it enough. I mean, a lot. So it's not code spaces. That's right, Nick. I don't have access to code spaces, so I can't demo that for you all, unfortunately. But this is I was going to leave this for a a bonus feature because I haven't used it a lot. I don't quite understand everything about it, but it does exist. And there are here's a link for some stuff about how to use it, I guess. There's a link to some docs in there. I think, and so below the code is the repository's README, right? And this is literally just this file, right? GitHub automatically, when you're browsing code and in any directory, will show you the README file right here. And so we use this a lot. Well, we use it internally, I guess. There's nowhere here, but if you had another folder and inside there you added a README file, it would show you that. I can. Do I have this locked in here? Oh yeah, I have it here. So all right, so we have a repository for. Nope, not that one. Well, we have for maintainers and contributors. So I created these profiles for this, so I don't have a lot of my autocomplete stuff here, but this is a repository used for our teams. And you can see here, if you go to this page, there's a README here and it's showing that README, which is really nice. And it's a really cool way to sort of write some internal docs, which is what we're using it for here. It acts as like on a web page, it would be index, index.html. But in this code, it uses README, which is kind of cool. And ideally, when you go to a repository, the main README will have lots of good information for you. We have added some stuff. Repositories also will have contributing guides and things like code of conduct, which get linked basically once you get into issue land. And so here is the issues view for a contributor, right? And this has popped up from, since I haven't dismissed this or anything like that. So this will give you a link to the contributing guidelines. And actually, I didn't know this feature happened, but apparently if you have some labels with good first issue, they make a link for that too. But lots of repositories have a contributing guide. So this is sort of standard thing to look for when you want to contribute to a site, right? Or contribute to a project. You can go to, they have a link there, but it's just contributing.md. And in ours, we have a whole bunch of really good stuff, and lots of other repositories do the same thing. It's always a good thing to check out when you are jumping in for the first time to a repository. We have some, we have GitHub as a feature for pinning issues. And so we have some sort of general issues here pinned. If you haven't added yourself to our members page, here's an issue for that, that we like to have up. Some people put issues or like common questions or something. And then it's sort of the list of issues, right? So issues will have a title, they'll have labels if people have added labels to them. If it's assigned, let's show the signing, and this is the amount of comments on this issue. So we just created this issue. And IU, I'm not sure who's here, but has volunteered to do it. But when you're looking at a list of issues, if you are looking to contribute to a repository, one of the things to do is look for open issues. And by that, I mean issues with no assignee. Lots of times repositories will add an extra label for that sort of thing too, right? So we have status available, right? The good first issue is a thing that some repositories use as well. I forget what the word I'm looking for is, but it's a common thing you'll see across. But that is like a good first issue. Usually applies like a good sort of beginnery issue, and yes, lots of repositories use it. So it can be a kind of cool way to scan through too. If you want to look at all of the labels that a repository has with some descriptions, which can be handy, if you click, sorry, I did that too fast, but here's the labels button. And this is like the list of all the labels that exist. Hopefully we have descriptions for all of them. And this labels thing, there's a default when you create a repository, but every single organization, and even within an organization, every single repository sometimes has different sets of labels. And so it's going to be, if you're jumping into a repository for the first time, it's going to be a good thing to scan through just so you understand actually what this means. Like this says, I don't know, where's one that would not be like clear from the word, this members page, this is a PR adding a user to the members page. Like if it's not very clear from the label, you can come in here and check out what the description actually means, which can be handy. And so when you're looking at issues, then you can say, oh, I just want to see, available. And so this shows the ones that are available on our repository. And then sometimes you can jump into one of those. And hopefully, hopefully the issue has good descriptions and stuff like that. We try to, so when a new issue comes in, we have a status of, I don't know, triage or something like that, which means we don't want people working on it yet because we haven't checked it out. And so lots of times that'll be the workflow in a repository where contributors or potential contributors will submit an issue, and the maintainers will check it out, add some context if so, or, make sure that it's defined properly and, meets whatever the mission is. And then if so, like say they kind of get the go ahead. So we can kind of look at the new issue. So this is actually something that I wanted to show you in the maintainer section, but
can we just pause for 1 second and go back?
Yes. Sorry, I was getting ahead of myself anyway.
No, it's okay. I just want to say this is one of the common questions or issues that I see. So if somebody wants to work on an issue, the number one, always look at the contributing.md guide. But it's better, rather than to private message someone or DM them on Twitter, hey, can I take this? Go to the issue and actually comment there, because when you have those conversations, it's better to have them in an open space so everybody who is looking at the repository knows, and then that allows the maintainer to assign you that issue if it is one that you want to take. So you would click on the issue, comment at the bottom, hey, I'm up for this, or whatever, and then that creates clear communication and allows the maintainer to assign you that issue.
Yeah. Thank you, Becca. That's absolutely correct. And we have this issue here, and there's a set exactly what you said, and so we assigned it right after that. And like that, like asking a short comment like that on an issue, it is almost always going to be appreciated. You can't assign yourself issues if you're not like a member of the organization, and so the only way for you to be assigned an issue anyway is for somebody to do it. If you're not a member of Virtual Coffee, right? If and I don't mean a member of the community, but a member of the organization on GitHub. And so, yeah, I just added this morning, right? This is open. Nobody like, it was just this morning, but brand new feature, right? And we sort of tried to lay it all down. And then, if this sounds interesting to you, then that's what you do. Yeah, that's exactly what you do. Is drop a comment here. Say, hey, is this still open? I'd love to jump on it, something like that. And you'll see that in most places. And that's just another reason to check out the contributor guide before, like if it's your first time jumping in, because hopefully that's laid out either in contributing or in the README. And I was going to, so another thing that repositories lots of times have and should have is a code of conduct. So the code of conduct that we keep in, well, I guess right here, it's here. It's not always in the actual repository. So Virtual Coffee is here. I have this testing things one. So this one doesn't have code of conduct.md here, but if you go to add a new issue, I'm gonna try to get to the place where it says, yeah, be sure to review the contributing guides. So Virtual Coffee, the organization, we've set up a global code of conduct, for the whole organization. So I don't know why that's not linked in like the sidebar and stuff, that now that I think about it. anyway. All right. I was going to dive into like creating issues and some markdown stuff, because that's kind of where I want to go next, is interacting with like the text editor. But does anybody have any sort of general issues related questions at this point, or anything that I mumbled through and it wasn't clear?
Do you just want to mention the discussions? I mean, that depends on the repo. And I think Nick has something to add too.
Yeah, I was like, my plan was to kind of go across here.
Okay.
So yes, discussions for sure. Sorry.
Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, sorry, my camera was off. I'm eating cereal for lunch. No, I was just gonna say this might be obvious, but if you're looking for issues to work on, you can filter on the assignee field, and you can say where it's not assigned.
Yeah.
Just so you don't end up wasting time going through like all the issues, and you can do other filtering there. It's just something to explore. Like if you wanted like the good first issues only, you could filter on that tag and so on.
Yeah.
So anyways, I'm gonna go eat cereal.
All right, enjoy your cereal. That is a great point. We like, so that's kind of like, we've gone back and forth about whether the status available label is even useful because of that, right? But in our repository, we use it. Not a lot of other repositories, they're not going to have they might not have this clear thing. If somebody's assigned an issue, that sort of implies that they are probably going to be working on it, maybe. Kirk, yeah, yes, Kirk, go ahead.
Hi, long time listener, first time caller. Yeah, I think we ended up on the status available, I think, just because we realized it's just great for like a quick scan, just so you can sort of like immediately see. And I don't know, sometimes repositories get into this weird case where someone might hit up the repo owner like, hey, can I take this? And they're like, sure, but they haven't like updated stuff yet. So I don't know. It's just like good to have multiple ways for people to easily see like, oh yeah, these are the ones I can do. Yeah, I don't know. Just want to add some context there.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I agree, Kirk. And that's why we're still using it. And I think it works out. And like we have a status, like there's a few different labels that start with status. And so that's basically probably an issue should only have one status, So that's it. What are the tests? Yes, Matt, that is a great question. And we are going to get into actually looking at an issue now. Should I? Well, let's answer that question first. Okay, so here's an issue that already exists, right? I'm just trying to think of the best way to do this. This is one of these things that we can add to Markdown. I'm going to create a new issue and show you. All right, so let's ignore these templates for a second. And lots of times, repository won't have any of that set up. So this is the general, default new issue thing. And so if this is the first time, you'll probably get this pop up, which gives you nice little links. This doesn't like Virtual Coffee didn't do this at all. We just, if these files exist, then GitHub nicely, pops these up for us. Title field is just, text. And then this field is basically like, I don't know what the right word for it is, a GitHub input field, right? So these fields, so issue body, comments on almost everything, a pull request body, a discussion, and lots of other things. Use language, I guess, a syntax called Markdown, and specifically it's GitHub flavored Markdown. And so here I have a link to their guide here. I'll put this in the chatteroni. There's a lot of like Markdown is pretty not is pre-exists GitHub is a way to mark up text without having to write HTML, basically, is the whole reason for it. And so they have some syntax for, so this is how you can do things like make things bold, make things italic, make, add links, right? Make bullet lists or numbered lists, bullet lists, And then you can add images. So this is if you write this in Markdown, it generates an image tag in HTML, right? This is like the alt text, and this is the URL. And I'll go into these a little bit more in a minute, but I just wanted to do an overview here. So headers, this is like H1. If you put 2 of these, it's an H2. If you put 3, it's an H3. And then these are block quotes. Okay, so this is their example, block quotes. So that makes this. And then code blocks. So you can do inline code here. So this is like in the middle of a paragraph, you want a little code. And then these are called code fences. So this is if you want a big block of code for an example, this is how you do it, right? And so this is the result of what we just looked at there. The syntax, I want to call this out really quick. If you're writing code blocks, you can put in, they use the whole word. I usually do like JS. I usually do the extension of whatever the thing is that I'm writing. So if I'm writing JavaScript, and it's gonna be a JS file, like JS will work. It will just do nice little, see how this is like colored, and this might be too small. See how this is colored, and this is just blank. So all of and then there's some extra stuff. I don't know if, I'm sure it's on here somewhere, but I'm gonna go through it too. Oh, extras, yeah. The extras is where the checkboxes are, and things like that. And I'll show you how those work a little bit more too, but it's just really some simple text syntax that you can just type. And almost all text fields. So this is like not that, right? This is just like a plain text thing, but anything that looks like this in GitHub will accept all of that stuff. So we can do, this is a big heading. There's lots of, if you just type regular text, it'll just make a nice little paragraph for you. Lipserm, that's not right. You can do, what we're gonna say, and so in here you can still use you can use their little UI, which is handy sometimes. So that's bold. This is I wish the spell check thing wasn't on here. Italics. And their preview tab is really nice, right? I use preview all the time to make sure I did it right. If you want to do a list, so I don't know, thing 1, it'll actually do a nice little auto adding the list thing. If you want to do indented list items, sub 3.1. 2. I don't know. That's what that looks like. So you get a little bold list. And so images, you can do, they showed you the image tag, and you can also, so I recently started using Edge, and it doesn't have this. I had on Firefox, I had a really cool extension that just gave me a little GIF thingy here that I could do. But so I installed on this one. It's, I don't know, it's called Popcorn or something. Just because I'm thinking of Kirk. But so this is just like, this isn't for like related to GitHub at all, except that you can copy Markdown and then paste it in, which is cool. And so this is what an image looks like, right? You can obviously link to any image you want. You can also upload an image. Let me find a good image for you here. So you can upload an image by like clicking on this thingy or drag and dropping, which is always nice. So I don't know, let me see here. Find a good one. Good enough. So I don't know if you can see that thingy, but it'll do uploading and then it's there. It's cool. So here's that image. Another sort of secret feature is you can copy an image in like anything and paste it right into this text box, which is like the coolest thing in the world. So pretty much any image, here, I don't know, there's got to be some image somewhere. All right, so copy image, right, and paste. Like I just hit Control V right there, and it got it. It's the coolest thing. The other nice thing to do here. So if you can get into your head the screenshot or the keystrokes for on Apple, there is a keystroke for creating a screenshot and putting it into your clipboard, right? So on Apple, it's what is it? Command Control Shift 4, which I know sounds ridiculous to try to remember, but if you do it enough, you will. And you can do a quick screenshot and then hit paste and it's right there. Like it's a cool thing. It's so handy. So this is me being very excited about this, but it's a cool feature. And when you're creating issues, we're going to have a bunch of content about how to create a good issue, but screenshots are a big part of it, or can be. Yes, yeah, me too. I mean, Mailing said she's yeah. So that's the same thing. I had a screenshots folder that was like, 1,000, like had just millions of screenshots, and I finally learned this one, and then I never have to do that again. So that's images. Another really nice, and so there's a bunch of different Markdown stuff you can like for actually editing text. You can actually you can write HTML right in here if you want, if it's easier for you. And you can do tables and stuff. They're really fiddly in Markdown, but you can also do them in HTML. Another GitHub specific feature. Okay, so here's a couple. One is lots of times you're going to be referencing another issue, right? And so you can in GitHub just do the number here, and this shows a little drop down if you don't like, if you want to pick from this, or you can just pick one that doesn't jump in the drop down. But if you say reference and then the issue or pull request number, it will automatically link to it, which is really cool. In some cases, it will autofill, and I haven't quite figured out when that happens and when it doesn't, when it shows the title for you. But that is a very handy thing to do and saves you some typing. You can also do that to external. So this number is only for this, this repository. But if we wanted to have, let's see here, an issue or, reference, I want to reference this issue. You can do, so if you're doing an external one, it's this, so it's a organization, repo, and then the number thingy, and that will autofill to that one, which is also a nice handy thing. You can always just like, I think if you paste in the full URL, it'll just do this for you, but it saves some time, or it can, I suppose. And then the last bit is if you're writing an issue about some code, about some specific code, or about, I don't know, even a typo or something, if you go to the code, let's not do Markdown file. If you go to the code here and you want to say, okay, let's put these scripts in alphabetical order, right? If you click on one line, this is when you're looking at a piece of code, you'll get this little dotty thing, little I don't know, hamburger, and you get some so copy line, copy permalink is what we want here, right? So referencing a new issue is also can be handy, but you don't have to just do one line. So if you clicked on one line and then hit shift and click on the rest of it, then you get the whole big chunk. Okay, so we're going to do copy permalink and paste it in here. Okay, and so I just pasted the URL that it like copied to my clipboard, and instead of that, it shows you this dope little preview thingy, which is also very handy. And so if you're referencing some actual oh, I actually created the issue. Whatever. If you're referencing the some actual code in your repository, this is going to be a big thing to do, a big cool thing. I mean, you can just like, so we could just say, so here, this is, as what I was saying, this is a comment field, and you can do all that same stuff in here, but you can just copy and paste the code into a little block thing, and so that would look like this, right? But you can see how this is a lot more handy because it directs you directly to the file, the line name, the line number, the which code you're talking about. And this, again, all these things work in pretty much any view that looks like this. So, comments, comments, replies, issues, pull requests, discussions. I don't know, probably other places too. And it's really handy. They have, and then the checklists. Okay, so the checklist, I mean, you can do a checklist anywhere, and it looks like this. Okay, so it's just like the normal list thing, and then open bracket and a space and a close bracket thing one. And then if you want to make it look like it's checked off, you put an X in there, and that kind of works. Okay. These ones, this is a really cool feature of GitHub where hitting the check will save that. Like like if I hit check here, it's saved. If you go and look at, if any of you go and look at this issue now, that thing is going to be checked. If I go back here and uncheck it, it's unchecked. Comment edit history is not public. Yeah, so I'm editing my own. I mean, like, it's really a shortcut for me going in, hitting. Okay, go ahead, got it. Going in, hitting edit and doing this, right? That's theoretically what it's doing. So I don't think I, as a non-member, org member of this thing, I don't think I could check off other people's boxes, but I can check off my own. If you put checkboxes into the issue description, and you can do this after the fact if you want. You get a little feature where it will, it'll show up in the header here, which is cool. Let me refresh this. So I don't know why it's looking like that, but if you check one off, it says one of two tasks, and that shows up in that. It shows up here. This is the one. I feel like that. Was that Matt? I forget who was asking about that originally. Yeah, Matt. Saw probably here. It shows up in project boards and other places that the issues get listed. So that can be a cool thing. That can be a cool thing to do, especially if you're writing issues. I don't know. I use it if you're writing issues as a maintainer, because I want to make sure these things get done, but I don't use it a ton, but it can be a cool way to like break up some subtasks without having to create 1,000 issues theoretically. Oh wow, man, it's 10 till. Okay, cool. All right. So when you create an issue as a contributor, you don't really have access to any of this stuff. But and this is the unsubscribe. So this is one of the places where if you create this issue, if I created this issue, so I'm subscribed to this issue forever. That means if anybody comments, they don't have to mention me. I'll get a notification. You can unsubscribe or customize. So you can say whatever. You can say custom and stuff. So that's a kind of cool way to, especially this is more of a thing on larger repositories with a lot of action. You don't want to lots of times get overwhelmed. So we have issues. We have pull requests are honestly similar to issues as far as GitHub is concerned. Here's the pull request, right? Here's the pull request that I've created like in the UI. But pull requests have, there's a list. Pull requests can't have labels. I guess we don't use them a lot in Virtual Coffee, but they can. You can comment on them. You can create all the different things. Sometimes when you're looking at them, you'll get some automated stuff. So this isn't Netlify. We use Netlify here, and this is just a bot thing that creates a deploy preview, which I'm also not going to super dive into, but feel free to ask questions later. But this is like this is a thing that we added specifically to this repository, so it's not always going to exist on every repository in the world. So that's why I don't want to like dig into it too much. But you can see here this says bot, and that means it was automatically generated. There's all sorts of different GitHub bots, just like there's Slack bots and everything. So if you create so if you're looking at pull requests, you can look at the list of commits, which is cool. Checks will be, this is going to be different per repository, however they have it set up, but there's a bunch of different things you can do depending on, or not you can do, but a maintainer can set up for every pull request. And so this is a way to like okay, like, let's just make sure the change that I made is passing a test or whatever. And then this file's changed, excuse me, is, well, it's boring here because it's just a new file. I gotta find let's see here if we can find a decent, here's one that was just submitted yesterday, 2 days ago. And so description of the, description of the pull request, files change. So here's our diff view. So this is just like basically code formatting, but you can see, here's the, like, this is the diff view of the change. So these are lines that were pulled out. If you wanted to, if you had some input, if you were reviewing it, or if you wanted a comment, or if you had a question, you can hit that plus right on the line. Okay, multi-line suggestions are, no. Okay. So you can do, yeah, yes, hopefully the recording will be available soon. You can add comments, right? So I'm not gonna do this on this one because it's a live podcast, but let's see here. Let's go back to the one that I created, my really boring one. I could say, okay, well, this honestly, I don't know, should be better, more like, oh, that was another thing that I forgot to mention in text messages. But if you want to mention a person, it's kind of like Twitter and Slack and everything else, it's just an app. And then now Kirk will get a nice little notification here. Add single comment is just going to throw a comment. Starting review is something that you like. I don't know why GitHub lets you do this, but you can review changes on any pull request that's public, I think, in the world. I would not start a review on a pull request unless somebody asks you to. That's my personal thing, but I'm going to do it here because let's just act like I did. But this is a review is a way to, I don't know. This is silly because there's just one line, so it's hard to kind of navigate. But a review lets you add inline comments, and then you can add like a sort of general summary review, and you can say approve, commit, comment, request changes. I guess I can't request changes because pull request authors can't request changes on their own pull request. I guess that makes sense. Maybe we'll swing back to this when later. But here's my review, and so that gives you this nice little view of. So if you're the author, you get a review, and here's what it looks like. And so here's the comment, and here's like the specific comment. You can reply to it. You can say, okay, and reply to it, and then resolve it if you've resolved the thing. Let's see what else. Pull request, comments, checks. Yeah, so that's kind of like, I'm sorry I didn't have a better pull request to like look at and screw around with. I should have created one in the like testing repository, because I don't want to super mess up our existing ones or confuse anybody. But and like I said before, we are going to have some like good content this month and next month about creating pull requests from like the code point of view, and from terminal and all that, all that stuff. And so I just kind of wanted to familiarize everybody with the UI side of this. It is like almost one. I'd be happy to keep going, or like, I don't know, Becca, what do you think? What do you think we should do at this point? Like, I know there's like, we haven't even,
Well, I think definitely if there are any questions, let's ask questions now. If you want to keep going for a little while longer, we're recording it, and I think that people will definitely find this valuable as we go through Hacktoberfest and Preptember. So in the value of the replay, I think that it's worth continuing.
All right. Yes. Okay. So anybody have any questions like at this point, or comments, or anything I should make sure I check out from the contributor side for this? If not, I will, I suppose, keep going. I'm going to show you some more pull request stuff from the maintainer side in a second, but I just wanted to hit up these other ones really quick. Discussion boards, we have, this is a fairly new feature for GitHub, and so not everybody has turned it on. You can turn these on per repository. So we just started ours here. and lots of, I like people, it's new, but people are starting to use it a lot. And so lots of times if a repository has a discussion board, then that's going to be the place to go to ask questions and maybe offer like sort of general non-specific suggestions or things like that, as opposed to issues, so up until before discussions were available, the only way to ask a question was to create an issue, right? And so you'd have repositories where the same question is being asked over and over again in an issue, which is not like an issue, like generally should be like a thing to change, right? And if it's a question, then then it's great for a discussion. So we have this discussion board where ours is pretty sparse at this point, but they should probably have it laid out. There's usually a tag, a pinned, discussion with some layout. We have, some notes of it and contributing guidelines, maybe too. Discussions have, here's our discussion, and discussions have upvotes, I guess. I don't know, which I don't really care that much about. There are question and answer style discussions. And so in those ones, you can ask a question. Should we invite Kirk? And this will be Q&A. Okay. And so, and this is another one of these ones where it's a GitHub like input field, so you can do all sorts of Markdown, all sorts of everything. And I don't know. So here's a discussion, and then if somebody answers it, then I can I can say, okay, that's a good answer for this question. Lots of times they're going to be, obviously these are going to be like, oh, how do I do something? How do I, whatever. And this discussion board is kind of a nice thing. It's kind of new territory for everybody, but we're kind of working through it. Actions are a place, like lots of times you're not going to have a lot of need to super dig into actions on a contributing side, but repositories can have actions set up, and I'll show you a couple of different ones in a minute. Usually not a place like that you need a ton of attention as a contributor, right? There's lots of cool things you can do as a project owner, but ours is basically mostly just a Netlify build. It excuse me, every night it rebuilds the site basically, so we get fresh data. Projects are kind of a cool thing. We don't have any public projects right now on the repo, but there are, I don't know if anybody know any, I'll show you our project. I'll show you our projects in a minute, but I'm trying to think if there's any, I know I just saw one, another repository, like a public repository that has projects. Wait, let me see if Create React App has it. Yeah, okay. So Create React App is a React package. It's got I brought this up because it has a ton of activity, a ton of action. Lots of people like doing lots of things. Look at this, 950 open issues, 262 pull requests, right? So this is like, okay, here we go. Like this is like huge repository with lots of action, lots of things going on. But they have all the same stuff. They have labels. This does need triage, so probably you're not going to jump right on that one. They have contributing guidelines. They have, so this is all, you can read all of them. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but they have lots of different stuff in there, and they do have projects. And so projects are a way to look at issues in a sort of Kanban sort of style, and you can add just like notes here, or add issues or pull requests, and then move them around. And from a, they're not going to be super useful probably, other than some overview from a contributing point of view on external repositories. But if you start creating some on your own, there can be lots of cool things to do with these, which I will show you as well in a minute. Let's see. Sometimes repositories have wikis. Ours is not like, that's why it's just going back to the homepage. I don't really like the GitHub wikis. They were like an old sort of bad solution, but some of them have a lot of information in them. Security is some, I don't know. There's some, you know, there aren't any in here, but this can be an avenue for information about a package if you are considering adding it, like if it's an open source package that you're considering adding to your product. This could be something to check out. Insights is like all of the action that goes on here. So let's go back to, you know, so this is period of 1 week. This is 1 month on Create React App. And, you know, they have a lot of people kind of doing a lot of stuff, right? Which is awesome. And this has contributors. And we can look at ours on contributors. It's interesting. But these are, you know, everybody that has contributed to the site. There's, what is community? Oh, this is like a checklist of the things that we've done. Hey, look, we get all the checks. And a list, I don't know. I don't really care about this like commits, but frequency, dependency graph can be kind of interesting. This is more stuff to look at if you are like, you know, if you were going to add this package to your product, then this might be something interesting to look at. And then network is some you know, I don't know, an external, this is a timeline of the most recent commits to this repository, which I don't really care about. And then a list of forks, which is fine. So anyway, that is sort of the repository from, yeah, and you can see like there's some other things I want to show you here in the sidebar for the main view. Releases are much more useful for like a package than just like a website. So Create React App has releases, and they put actual notes in their releases, which is cool. But if you're going to npm install, this is the list of like, you know, releases that you can do. So you can say, I'm getting like a fly is attacking me, but all right, go away. Always great to see somebody like trying to slap a fly in a video. We only have a couple of releases on our site because it's, I don't know, it's less important, I think, with just a website. Sponsorship information. And this is cool. This is so far 4.6 million people use this package, which is cool. Ours, you know, with sponsorship information, here's our list of contributors again, and languages that this repository theoretically uses. So that is kind of it from the contributing side, I think. Did I miss anything here?
Just pause there. Does anybody have questions?
Yeah.
You can use the hand raise function, throw it in the chat, or if you just want to come on and ask a question, that's fine too.
Yeah, for right now, if you just want to talk, that's cool. If not, I will kind of switch over to, so this is, let's see here, a new browser profile that I added. So hopefully I haven't, hopefully nothing's like really messed up. But anyway, so this is what this site looks like from the, from you know, so we're a maintainer here. So here we get Dependabot. Dependabot is, if you create an open source package and add anything to it, you are going to start getting these. And so this is like, Dependabot alerts are basically a machine scans through your package.json and I don't know, decides that you need to upgrade things. I don't find it super helpful, but it's I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like very much adds a lot of noise to everything, and so people start ignoring them, and you know, sometimes they actually are important and lots of times they're not. And you know, like this is not, there's probably some vulnerability on this thing that if you were using it, it doesn't matter, we don't need to get to it. It's just a thing that you will learn to look at and deal with on your own, and we can talk about that a different time. So when I'm looking at issues, I get the same, I mean, it's the same view as everyone else, right? But I can do things like assign people, right? So I can assign anybody who's in the, has access to this repository, or anybody who's interacted with it, which means creating it or adding a comment, things like that. I can add my labels here. I can add it to projects, which I'll show you. Milestones are sort of a way to collect issues and add a date to them. which I don't think I've ever seen people successfully use very well, but it exists. Oh, that was one other thing I forgot to show you. Okay, so the last thing in pull requests, right? So linked pull requests. So this is there's these set of keywords where you can say closes, right? And then you can say closes this issue, right? So that's the test. Oh no, test issue is 313. All right. So in this pull request, we say this pull request, right? When it gets merged, it's going to close this issue for us. And that will link the issue here. You can also link issues without doing that by just choosing. And so now when you look at this issue, it shows here linked pull request. So what that means is if I hit merge on this pull request, it'll close that issue automatically, which is nice because that way I don't have to close two different things at the same time. So where was I? Issues, test issue. Yeah, so I can do that. And I can add things to, so we have some projects set up on, I don't think there's any set up on this repo, but there are a couple projects set up. I wonder if there's
Contributors has.
yeah, as well as there's a couple projects set up on our organization projects. So I will create a new one, and this is my Untitled project. Oh yeah, sorry. All right, so they just started this beta of a new project board style, which is really, really cool. And the this is the old style, right? So we had this, so here's like, I don't want to do that one. Here's like a new, this is the old style, old project. Whatever. And
Arlie has her hand up. You want to
yes.
pause for a second?
Why don't you talk while I kind of fill this out? Yes, Arlie, go ahead.
Okay, thanks. I saw I was looking at the issues that are first issues, and I was wondering if I wanted to take one of the issues, if I asked and you let me handle it, what's the next step? Do I have to create a branch out of that before working on it?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And so we're going to have some like, we're going to have some content later, either later this month or at the very beginning of October that is all about that. Okay. So like from top to bottom, but the basic approach, right, is, so this is back in my, non-maintainer view, right? If I want to make any changes to this site, what I need to do is fork the site first. Okay. And so I've already forked it, right? I already forked it, but what it does is creates an entire copy of this repository on my user. And then after that, you're right. You're totally right. Create a branch, so this is the thing that you actually like clone locally. And you can do it in GitHub desktop. You can do it on the command line. I use an app called Tower a lot, but whichever way you want to do it, and then create a branch that is just for that change, right? So if the issue you're taking is, let's get back to the issues here. So, I don't know, add new Slack channel, add the channel guide, right? So this is the one you wanted to do. You would create your fork, so then it'd be early, like, I don't know what your username is, but /virtualcoffee.io, and locally create a branch and add that file and commit it, and then do a pull request from that branch. I know that like that's not, we have some good documentation actually in our site about this in
On the README.
in is the
On the
README.
README. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Making pull requests, this sort of thing. There's GitHub has guides too. We will do like a full hour plus like this style meeting, except just about that to kick off Hacktoberfest. And so that's coming too. But like that is, I mean, it's a great question, and it's like a question everybody has that hasn't done it for yet. That's kind of the general thing is if you have a, you know, if you've accepted it, like have an issue assigned to you, then yeah, create a fork and then create a branch on that fork and then make the change to that and then create a pull request from that branch. So if you look at these pull requests that are made, you can see here, this is the one we did. This is saying, all right, this user wants to merge into the, you know, the real repository from, and this is like, so this is my username and that's, or my, you know, username and that's my branch. So this is the thing that that UI created for me automatically, but so Dan uses GitHub. So this is my user, you know, my user, virtualcoffee.io means I have a whole copy of my repo here of the virtual coffee repo. And then this is my branch. I have all these different branches. So, yeah. I hope that likes there's a, I will put a link like directly to the, where's the README here somewhere? Is it the README, you think? I think it's contributing guide actually. So making pull requests. I'm gonna link directly to this, put it in Slack here. Oh, Becca's got something, maybe, whatever. Anyway, this also has some guides to like, from GitHub, you know, on the same topic. All right, projects. I don't know if I want to get into projects a lot, but like projects are a way to kind of keep track of issues. And, you know, you can create things and you can add, okay, so you can add, I don't want to add a note, add issues directly to the project, right? So, and you can put it in whichever column you want. You can set up automations. It's kind of cool. Projects, they created these beta, this beta thing. And so this is sort of this, like a similar setup, except that you can create as many like sort of table columns and views, kind of like Airtable or Google Sheets, which is really neat too. And so this beta is something they're working on. But now if I look at this issue, it will show up, like the fact that it's in this project will show up on this issue, which is neat. It's a way to internally manage and sort issues and keep track of things like that. Let's see here. What else we got? Pull requests, same kind of. I feel like there was something I was going to say about something. What do you think it was? Oh, issue templates. Okay, so I skipped over this for a second, but lots of times issue let's see if was that? Or was it just chatter?
It was just some background noise.
Okay, that's cool. All right, let's see if they have some issue templates. Okay, so this is create React Apps repo again. And so they have issue templates set up, and we do too, and I'll show you ours too, but I want to see if they've used forms yet. Nope. Okay, cool. So if they don't have the beta, this is the old way to do it. The maintainer can create these templates. Okay, so if you are a contributor and you want to, you want to write an issue, you get some different ways. Okay, so here's like the bug report. All right, something's actually wrong. Proposal, let's do this question, whatever, that stuff too. This is just a link to somewhere else. And or you could do the blank one, which is what we did. But templates will autofill labels and add some stuff in here, which is kind of interesting. And so the idea here is you fill out the different pieces of information here, and to help the maintainers kind of read through their issues. Lots of repositories have them set up. If they don't, then that's not a big deal either. But they're nice because you can, if I fill out a bug report here, it will get added to the label, like that bug report label will be added to it automatically. We got added to the issues beta again, and so we actually were able to create a new feature called issue forms. So we have the same, like it looks the same bug report, all this stuff, except now we get a nice like form that we can do, and we can add. We can add fields and we can add drop downs and stuff like that, and make some checkboxes that are assigned. We can assign labels automatically. You can't assign them to people if you want to. That's not like something we get into, but anyway, as a contributor, if you're looking to create an issue, for somebody, lots of times there'll be these templates set up. And if you're a maintainer, they're pretty straightforward to set up. They're actually code in the repository. And so here's all of our issue templates. So it's kind of neat. Yeah, I don't know. I think, there's a lot more, obviously. We could keep talking for the rest of the day probably about it all. Is there anything like that I missed or that you'd like to see from this point of view before we totally wrap up?
I would just say to add to that, there's a discussion that's still open on the site. And so feel free to add to that. We can always do an additional lunch and learn about this, or find out the way to best get the information to you.
And Edge has sorry, just real quick, I'm gonna just do this one. Yes, that's a great point, Becca. And I will, I'll put that in the link, unless you already did, I don't know. And I'll put it again in the VC events room. And what I was going to say was, well, I'll drop some show notes, or we'll paste some of these links that were put in chat and into that discussion board if Becca's not already doing that. And we can kind of keep the conversation going there. That's about it for me. Anybody have any last questions or anything else before we say goodbye? All right. Well, if not, then I am all done.
I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is all issues with the label of good first issue means that it's good for beginners generally to the programming language the project is based on, or just means that it's a good first issue for experienced programmer new to that particular project?
Yeah, that's a great question. The good first issue label is theoretically should be for beginner developers, people or beginner open source contributors at least. That's the idea. It won't, there's no like laws or anything, there's no like there's no like GitHub doesn't moderate it for everybody. And so it's up to the maintainers to add this label. And so we certainly tried it, like in our virtual coffee stuff, that will be the case. Yes. Like anything that says good for first issue will either involve like no code or very simple changes or something like that. Or, I can't, you can't promise that other maintainers won't say, oh, this is a good first issue for our repository, but maybe like I could see them interpreting it as good first issue for the repository, but involves some heavy code. You know what I mean? I can't promise that everybody does that, but they do have like some guidelines somewhere about that.
I think too, like you said before, there's a list of all of the labels that you can look at and how they describe those, because I have seen it differentiated in another label that says something like new to coding.
No, that's a great point, Becca. The contributing guide should also probably mention that. But this label with this exact text, good first issue, has some automation involved. There's like people, apps have like started scanning for them and stuff like that. And so the general principle is to keep them good for like actual beginners, to code, or to at least that language, like you said. So it's a great question. And yeah, so it can change from organization to organization, but in general, the answer is yes, that should be a good first issue for people starting out their dev journey. Anything else?
I just wanted to ask, is there do you have any tips about how to find repositories that have good first issues?
Yeah.
Like there, you do?
So we're going to get into that a little bit later in the
Okay.
month for Preptember. So we will have a list of organizations that we're going to be working
Okay.
with or that we have approved as good repositories for our Hacktoberfest initiative. So you'll definitely see that in Slack.
Yeah, and
Thanks.
that's another great question, because there's, there's a lot of, I don't know, repositories out there in the world that, just like the maintainers don't have time to manage them or whatever. And so, yeah, we want to provide some of that stuff for our members. Orly's just been killing it with the questions. That every question you've asked, we're like, yep, we like, the problem is the answers to some of those are like hour-long answers. And so, we're going to answer them, and we'll that this whole month
Just a
is
sign
gonna
it's a good question.
Exactly. This whole month will be all about this stuff. So I'm glad you're asking the right questions and sticking.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much for doing this, for taking the time to do this. I've learned so much today, and I'm very scared of GitHub. I'm just always afraid I'm going to break something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
open source is even worse. Thanks so much for doing
absolutely,
this.
yeah, you're not alone. I mean, like, that is, a very common, I think, a very common feeling, and hopefully we can help. Get through that a little bit this month and next month. So I'm excited.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Well, I think that is a lot of great information. Thanks, Dan, for doing the presentation today. If you have questions, definitely put them in the discussion board or in our open source channel, or you can directly ping Dan Ott in Slack.
That's right. I'm there.